Good morning everyone, Tractorman 44 here. I started to sharpen a set of jointer blades for my son-in-law yesterday on a 1954 Delta joiner that came out of my grandfather's blacksmith shop. I've used it for a number of years and kind of sent it for storage up to my son-in-law's. He's put it to a whole lot more use than I have. I got a question for old Sneelock at old Sneelock's workshop. Now he's the official, unofficial guru of these old tool restorations. At least I'd put him in that category. He belongs there, there's no doubt about it. But he picked up a few of these 1045 or 10452 series Belsaw sharpening, saw sharpening setups where you can do scissors and ice skates and planer blades and joiner blades and knives and all that stuff. You name it, you can sharpen it with this thing if you got all the accessories. But I struck a stump, so to speak. Now I'm going to show you what I got here, and maybe I can rattle old Sneelock's cage and he can come out of the woodwork and tell me what I'm missing. But what I got is a series of these devices here, the groove of which are designed to lock in a planer blade, a joiner blade, or whatever, and you latch it in with the thumb screws. And the machine slide right here goes on a machine surface as you pass it back and forth across a special designed beveled grinding wheel. Now larger planer blades, my Woodmaster and my other Belsaws and my other bigger planer blades, they'll just about fill this whole width, to where, and the height is the main thing. They're so thick or so wide, they come up out of the groove far enough to where they can come fully in contact with the grinding wheel. Now when I got around to these blades here off of this old Delta, of course I don't know if they're original blades or not, but these things are way too short to come up out of the groove. If you notice right here, by the time I put them down in here, they don't come up out of that groove to allow me to, well, I got it in backwards because it goes in this way here, because the bevel has to go towards the angled wheel. And if you just kind of willy-nilly put them up here, you're going to get a crooked cut like this, and you want those to be machined as perfectly as you can, so you can just insert them, fairly easily without the use of a dial indicator. Or what I need to do is figure out a way to elevate these blades in that groove to a point like this, to where I can actually come in contact with the grinding wheel. And I was just wondering if old Sneelock has got any idea about what could possibly be missing, or am I doing something entirely wrong, or are those joiner blades and those cheap planer blades just entirely too thin to even be considered to be done on this machine. So that's my dilemma. So let me show you what I'm coming up with in the meantime. So what I came up with is this keyway material. It's like a 3/16, like a point. If I put it down into the bottom of the slot, I drop this keyway down in here and then set this on top, you can see that I've got enough clearance now, or height, for me to properly grind that against that beveled wheel. But then the problem is the thickness of this is twice the thickness or more than the thickness of the planer blade or the joiner blade, so I don't really have a way of clamping it unless I double up the planer blades in the groove. So what I'm going to do, just for the heck of it, I've taken a piece of this keyway material and I've chucked it up in the old clousing milling machine. Some people call it clausing, I don't know. I had to do a little work on it, had to put a new motor on it, put a reversing switch on it. I don't remember how many, it's a drum reversing switch. Had to put that on there and make it work. And then of course clean it up, do a little routine maintenance and make it work. But at any rate, what I've done, I've chucked this up in that clousing mill. I'm going to index that until I get just past the vise. Well, I'm going to make multiple passes until I get the exact thickness that I need on this material here. That'll be the width of that joiner blade. And once I get this half of it machined down, I'll transfer the other half over there and use the depth gauge, set it all up, and then cut the other half down, simply because my vise isn't wide enough to put the whole thing in one pass. Now what I have to do is use a digital caliper and measure that, see if I've got to shave down to match the thickness of the joiner blade or not. It can be a little bit over or a little bit under, I'm sorry, simply because it's going to do nothing except hold it for elevation. It's not going to do anything for clamping. So I'm going to measure that real quick, and if I have to take a little more, I'll take a little more. Then I'll transfer this half into there and then take the other half down to match. That should go inside that groove and hold that blade up at the right elevation to allow me to sharpen it. First half is cut off, and I've got her replaced in the vise, and then I've got it adjusted to the exact height. Okay, there we have it. I'm just going to sand that off, kind of doll that up a little bit, and I think it's going to work just about right. That's the 3 original 6-inch joiner blades there from that old Delta. You can't tell it, I don't think, from the camera, but they're all 3. None of them are ground accurately. They're all 3 different in widths, which means they really hadn't been machined before. They were just free-handed or something like that, I guess. I don't really know. And then one or I think 2 of them are actually tapered. There's several thousands, like 12 or 14 thousandths different in height between this end of the cutting edge and that end of the cutting edge. Well, that all has an effect on the way your joiner works. So here's the little thing I just made. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place that down inside the slide that goes on the Belsaw. This is the very narrowest one, so I'm going to adjust every one of them to the narrowest dimension, which means I'll probably waste a little bit of material, but it doesn't matter. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put a second blade down alongside that machined piece of material we just made to kind of allow it to sandwich tightly up against the groove. And then what I'm doing is holding this down nice and securely on top of that thing that we made, and tighten this down snug. Come down here, verify that it's good and secure. Then we'll look in the end. I don't know that you can see this very well, but if you look in the end view, I don't know if it's going to show up, but this is the one we're going to sharpen. There's the spacer that we just made on the little clousing mill, and then this is one of the other blades I'm using to sandwich everything together just for a pressure piece. So now you can see we can definitely grind the smallest one down. Now look at this. I verified already that these are all the way down against. So this, if we grind every one of them to this height, every one of them is going to be exact and identical. But if you look right here at the distance, I could measure that, but there's just a very, very little amount of blade sticking up above that casting, whereas up on this opposite end with my other thumb, there's a whole lot more. So that tells me that this one here is 15 or 20 thousandths angular in grind. So I sure hope Mr. Sneelock gets a chance to look at this and try to enlighten me and tell me what parts I'm missing from my 10452 from Belsaw. Now here's the accessory we use for, or will be used for 12 and up to 20-inch planer blades. But obviously we're not going to use that one here. We're going to be using this little guy right here because we only have 6-inch joiner blades. Close, but it's not quite done yet. If you look, I guess you can see on the shiny how nice and shiny it is all the way across here, and then it starts pulling out way down here. This thing, like I said, that was done freehand or by some other means, so everything is not exact. So I've got to adjust this and pull it down a little bit and get that a continuous grind. Almost complete. So here we are, all 3 of them freshly ground right off of the machine. You can look, pretty much the full length has been brought to the correct angle. I put my digital caliper across at 3 different locations across all 3 of them, and they're all 3 now identical. None of them are tapered, and none of them are, they're all the same height. One was way short. It was about 18 thousandths short, so now they're all 3 the same height. I'm actually quite happy with the process. Like I said, that turned out pretty good, you know, for a virgin voyage on that thing as far as sharpened joiner blades or planer blades are concerned. I've got a planer that's 24-inch. It's from about 1915 or 1920 or so, and it's actually going to be rigged up eventually to operate off the flat belt off of one of the tractors. It was a 3-phase machine, and that motor's all long gone. One of the accessories I have on this this Belsaw sharpening setup is I can do up to 24-inch planer blades with it. Now it's a job. 20 inch is pretty standard. 20s, 15s, and 12s, and of course these little 6-inch joiners. But it can, with a little creativity, do 24-inch. I've already kind of set it up and played with it enough to where I think I can manage that. But at any rate, I'm still calling old Sneelock's workshop out. If I have the good fortune to have him watch this video, I would like for him to comment to me, tell me what I might be missing, and tell me if this machine, because of the width of that groove that you latch those blades in, if these blades are not designed, or that machine is not designed to sharpen these little blades. But I made that shim, changed the elevation on it, and I was able to make it work pretty well. I'm happy with it. I guess my son-in-law is going to be happy. He'll be able to cut his fingers off now, or at least the tips of them anyway. So at any rate, hey man, this is Tractor Man 44, and I am out of here.